Have you guys heard of sand cartels? Yes, there are sand cartels, and I decided I wanted to talk about it because I mentioned it in a gathering that we had with like friends and family, and they were like, "What?" So I was like, "I know, right?" And so here I am. Okay, so these sand cartels refers to the term to criminal or illegal groups involved in the extraction, transportation, and sale of sand. Surprise, sand. I feel like the general notion would, be like people would never think of sand as a target, but it's actually a very attractive target because it's I guess cheaper or cheap in comparison to other illegal activity to do as far as like extract sand, to obtain the sand to sell, and the profits are pretty high. So it's like a very very valuable resource, but like at a low cost to obtain it. Does that make sense? When it's illegal. I'm sure it's more expensive to obtain it when it's legal. Why is sand so valuable? And can you get it anywhere? No, I'm not going to tell you how to obtain it illegally, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about this organized crime. So, not just any sand is good for like this cartel situation. For example, like obviously the desert is full of tons and tons of sand, but that's not the kind of sand that's lucrative for this kind of for this activity. The sand that is lucrative and is worth obtaining illegally is actually found in coastal ecosystems, river beds, and beaches are often targeted because they have coarser sand. And what this coarser sand is used for is to make very important building materials, actually, primarily or very commonly concrete and glass and even asphalt. And of course, concrete and glass are like everywhere, like we need glass for everything, we need concrete for everything. It's like part of all of our infrastructure, our buildings. All these buildings, they all have glass, they all our roads have concrete, so it's like very invaluable, of course. So because this is a very popular item to make these building materials, so there's been like a construction boom, so therefore it's created a very like high demand for concrete specifically. I mean, I'm sure all materials, but concrete as well. And what did we just say we use in concrete to make concrete? Sand, this coarse sand that's not found everywhere. So unfortunately, according to the UN Environment Program, reported in 2019, 50 billion tons of sand and gravel that are used annually are surpassing the natural replenishment rate, which, hello, like, duh, right? Because not duh, but I mean, not surprising because 50 billion tons is insane. There are governments with regulation to try to protect the spaces where people find these lands, where you can find these lands, the environment around it and everything. But legal supplies, unfortunately, are, and emphasis on legal supplies are insufficient for the demands that this construction industry is creating. So unfortunately, because of the shortfall of like not having enough supply, again, obtained legally, to meet the demands, is like it opens the door for illegal activity, which is actually very commonly organized and violent. Weird. So I'm not saying you necessarily have to care about the environment, but at the same time, I feel like if we're all breathing and using resources from the environment, and our health depends on the environment, like why wouldn't you kind of care or be interested? So how does this affect the environment and eventually lead to our health? Well, sand cartels, they extract land from riverbeds and coastal areas, right? As I have said. So this destroys natural ecosystems and it violates local laws that also serve its purpose to protect the public health. Rivers, which are crucial for water supply, which are probably crucial for water supply, not just for wild animals, but for people in, some countries. I mean, I'm sure here too, but water supply is important for everyone, right? So this activity significantly impacts rivers. They are extensively drenched, which lowers the water tables and damages agriculture, which again leads to us because we need agriculture for food. So, it's not just about wild animals and wildlife, it's about what we have to eat, what people have to eat, like their supply. And unfortunately, because the demand is, surpasses the replenishment rate, if we were to follow the local law or the laws, we'd have to kind of slow down on the rate that we extract and take away the sand from certain areas. But because that wouldn't keep the demand, that wouldn't hold up to the demand that we are needing. Well, not we, but people use for infrastructure and construction. Unfortunately, it's a very easy area to bribe even officials, like government officials and people in law enforcement, to let them sell it to them so they can use it for, to build and to use for infrastructure. How many times am I going to say infrastructure? Because these activities negatively impact the environment, of course there's going to be a lot of environmentalists, activists, journalists, which thank goodness that there are people that advocate for the environment and for public health, because honestly we wouldn't have a lot of regulations that keep us healthy. I mean, I know there's so many things that can improve and a lot of corruption that's happening, like with our foods and everything, but it could be so much worse if we didn't have people constantly fighting. Now, there's a lot of people constantly probably fighting to harm us, like with our health and stuff, but there's also people that are constantly fighting for positive change for everyone and for the environment and everything, because it's all an ecosystem. We're all a big old ecosystem and it all affects us. So thankfully there are people that fight for this type of cause. Unfortunately, violence is caused and harm, threats, and even murder is, happens to these people that fight against it because they're in their way, and they are. Anytime you get in a way of a bad guy's money, what happens, right? So. Also in Southeast Asia, Singapore has heavily relied on imported sand for land reclamation projects, fueling illicit mining in countries like Indonesia and Cambodia. Entire islands have disappeared due to sand extraction. Guys, entire islands. In continents like in places like Africa and countries like Kenya, sand mining threatens the local water supply and agricultural land. Organized groups often engage in violent turf wars. Something difficult. It's not easy, right, to stop such a, I guess you could say, lucrative business if it's bringing in a lot of money, and the people that are going to be affected by the environmental impacts are probably not going to be alive by the time that happens. So that's why a lot of people don't care about the environment, because they're probably going to not be around by the time the effects actually really start taking effect. I guess not everyone has to be like passionate about the environment, but at the end of the day, we all use the environment for resources, for food, for air, for water. Thank you for watching. What is this makeup? I'm not really sure, but I'm at home. I'm not going anywhere, so I'm okay with this. Bye.